Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. I had just come home from a long, tiring day. The kind of day where all you want is a hot shower, some quiet, and a moment to breathe. As I stepped into the bedroom, I barely noticed the soft creak of the floor behind me. The sound was so normal, I didn't think twice. I was adjusting my bra, not realizing that someone was watching. It wasn't until I turned slightly toward the mirror that I caught a glimpse of movement in the doorway and froze. There he was, my stepson, standing completely still, eyes wide like he'd seen something he wasn't supposed to. We both stood there for a second that felt like forever. My heart raced. I didn't know whether to feel embarrassed, shocked, or just say something to break the silence. He looked away quickly, muttering an apology and stepping back, but I could tell something had shifted. There was a tension in the air that hadn't been there before. Not inappropriate, but confusing. Charged. Emotional. Something neither of us really knew how to handle. He wasn't a kid anymore. At 20, he was growing into his own, respectful, mature, always helpful around the house. But that night, I noticed him in a different way. Not because of what happened, but because of how he handled it. He didn't make a joke, didn't act strange. Just quietly turned and left me alone, clearly unsure of what to say. And that silence? It stayed with me. Later that evening, we sat at the dinner table like everything was normal, but the way his eyes flicked toward me and quickly looked away, it said everything. Something had changed. A boundary was accidentally crossed, and now we were both walking on thin ice, unsure, curious, maybe even afraid of what that moment meant. Was it just an awkward accident? Or had we both noticed something deeper in that fleeting second, something we hadn't acknowledged until now? If you've ever experienced a moment that made you question everything you thought was normal, you'll understand what comes next. What would you do in this situation? Would you talk about it? Ignore it? Let it pass? Or explore what it might really mean? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how others would handle something so unexpected. And if you're watching this, vote in the poll below. Should she clear the air or wait to see what he does next? The next part of this story takes a surprising turn, and nothing is ever the same again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, trying to forget the moment that had just happened. But no matter how hard I tried, the image stayed in my mind, not just of him standing there, but of the look in his eyes. It wasn't just shock. It was something deeper. And maybe I imagined it, but there was a flicker of emotion I hadn't seen before. Like something unspoken had passed between us. The next morning, everything felt different. We didn't talk about it. We just acted normal. I made coffee. He sat at the kitchen counter scrolling through his phone, but I could feel it, that quiet, nervous energy between us. He avoided eye contact, and I wasn't sure if I should bring it up or pretend like nothing ever happened. Part of me thought it would fade on its own, but the other part knew better. Let me explain something. My stepson, Tyler, had come to live with me full-time after his father, my ex-husband, moved overseas for work. At first, we barely spoke. He was respectful, kept to himself, and we slowly built a calm, easy relationship over the past year. He was mature for his age, always polite, always kind. That's what made all of this harder to ignore. He wasn't the kind of guy who'd ever cross a line. But sometimes lines blur all on their own. Later that day, I caught him looking at me again, just for a second, while I was folding laundry in the living room. Our eyes met, and then just like that, he looked away, pretending to focus on the TV. But I could tell. Something was building. Not in words, but in silence. And it was getting louder by the minute. I started second-guessing myself. Was I reading too much into it? Was it just an awkward accident that didn't mean anything at all? But then, why did it feel so heavy? So real? The way my heart reacted when he was near, the way the air shifted when we passed each other in the hallway. I couldn't deny it. I felt something too, and that scared me. Tyler began spending more time around the house, not out with friends like usual. He offered to help with dinner, helped carry in groceries, even lingered a little longer in the kitchen than necessary. It was sweet, but I couldn't ignore the way his eyes followed me when he thought I wasn't looking. It wasn't rude or bold. It was quiet, thoughtful, and full of questions neither of us had the courage to ask. Have you ever felt something that you couldn't explain? That made you question everything, even if nothing technically happened? If you were in my shoes, what would you do? Say something? Or stay quiet? Let me know in the comments. I'm reading every single one. And don't forget to vote in the poll below. Because in the next part, something happens that neither of us saw coming. That weekend, the weather turned cloudy and the mood inside the house somehow matched it. Tyler and I barely spoke, not out of anger, more like we were both too careful, afraid to say the wrong thing or give away too much. But sometimes, silence says more than words ever could. Every glance, every shared space, even the way our hands brushed while passing dishes, it all carried weight. We were walking through something neither of us planned, and the more we tried to act normal, the more obvious it became that things weren't. That Sunday night, something strange happened. I was in the laundry room, pulling warm towels out of the dryer, when I found one of my bras tangled between them, the same one from that moment. I froze for a second. It felt like a sign, or maybe just my own mind playing tricks. I was about to toss it into the basket when Tyler walked in behind me, offering to carry the clothes upstairs. I don't know if he saw it, he didn't say anything, but I noticed his eyes drop for a split second before he quickly looked away. The silence after that felt too tight. Later, we sat watching a movie in the living room. I chose something light, hoping it would break the tension. But halfway through, I realized neither of us was really paying attention. He was fidgeting, tapping his fingers on the side of the couch. I could feel the question lingering between us, not spoken, but there. Then, suddenly, he asked, "Can I talk to you about something?" His voice was soft, unsure. My heart stopped for a second, but I nodded. Before he could say more, the doorbell rang. Just like that, the moment broke. A friend had dropped by to return something. I handled it quickly, but by the time I got back, Tyler was already heading upstairs. I still don't know what he wanted to say, or if I'm ready to hear it. What do you think he was going to confess? Was he going to apologize? Or was he about to say something more complicated? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think they should talk it out, or is silence safer? The next part of this story uncovers something that changes everything, and trust me, you won't see it coming. The next few days felt like walking on glass. Every little thing carried a strange energy. Every word, every pause, every time we ended up in the same room. Tyler barely spoke to me after that night. Not in a cold way, just distant. Like he was trying to figure something out, maybe even fighting with himself. And I wasn't any better. I kept telling myself not to overthink, to stay grounded, to not let one awkward moment rewrite everything we had built. But deep down, I knew it already had. Tuesday evening, it started to rain. One of those slow, steady rains that taps against the windows like it's trying to whisper secrets you don't want to hear. I was cleaning up the kitchen, the sound of thunder in the background, when I felt Tyler walk in. I didn't even need to turn around to know it was him. I could feel it in the air. He leaned against the counter, quiet for a few seconds, and then said, "We can't keep pretending nothing happened." My hands froze over the sink. I turned slowly, heart pounding. His eyes were soft, serious. "Tyler," I started, but he cut me off gently. "I know it was an accident. I didn't mean to see anything." But after that night, I've been thinking about a lot of things. About us. About how this place feels like home. About how I look forward to just being around you. I didn't know what to say. There was so much in his voice: confusion, guilt, curiosity. I could tell he wasn't trying to be disrespectful. He was just being honest. But sometimes, honesty is harder than silence. "I'm not saying anything has to happen," he added quickly. I just needed to say it out loud. Before I could respond, the lights flickered. A sudden power outage. The room fell into a dim, heavy silence, broken only by the sound of rain. I stood there, holding my breath, heart racing. The shadows from the window danced across his face, making the moment feel even more unreal. We were alone. No lights. No distractions. Just the weight of everything that hadn't been said finally starting to surface. What do you think she'll say next? Should she open up too? Or is it too risky? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The next part will take us right to the edge of everything. The power was still out. The only light came from the window, where rain streaked the glass in long, silent trails. Tyler and I stood in the kitchen, the air between us thick with everything unsaid. I could feel his eyes on me, searching, waiting. My heart was pounding, and I was about to speak, not sure what I was even going to say, when my phone buzzed on the counter. I reached for it, grateful for the distraction, but the name on the screen made my blood run cold. It was my ex-husband, Tyler's father. I hadn't heard from him in months. He usually kept his distance, calling only when absolutely necessary. But this message was short and strange. Landing in the morning. "We need to talk. It's important." Just like that. No explanation, no warning. Tyler saw my face change. "Is everything okay?" he asked, stepping a little closer. I hesitated, then nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just unexpected." I didn't want to tell him. Not yet. Not until I understood what this meant. But the timing couldn't have been worse. Why now? After everything that was slowly unraveling in this house, why would he suddenly show up? It wasn't just about the message. It was about what it could bring. If Tyler's father walked through that door tomorrow, everything could shift. Everything that was fragile and uncertain between me and Tyler might fall apart before we ever figured out what it really was. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the look on Tyler's face when he opened up. And now I was keeping a secret, something that could change everything for both of us. The next morning, the power came back, but nothing felt normal. Tyler was quiet again, watching me with that same concern in his eyes. I could feel it. He knew I was holding something back. Then, just before noon, the doorbell rang. What would you do in my place? Tell him everything before it's too late? Or wait and risk him finding out on his own? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This is where everything starts to unravel. I opened the front door with a tight chest, unsure of what to expect. There he was, my ex-husband, suitcase in hand, soaked from the rain. He gave me a quick nod, the kind that carried years of distance. "We need to talk," he said before I could say anything. Tyler, who had come down the stairs quietly, froze when he saw his dad standing there. His expression was unreadable, but I saw the way his shoulders stiffened. We sat in the living room. The rain had slowed outside, but the storm inside was only just starting. My ex got straight to the point. "I'm not staying long. I just came to talk to Tyler," he said, his eyes avoiding mine. "There's something I haven't told either of you." The room went silent. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folder. I found something while going through old legal papers. Turns out, Tyler might not be my biological son. Time stopped. Tyler's mouth opened, but no words came out. I could barely breathe. What do you mean? I whispered. He looked at Tyler now, softer. There was a test. Years ago. I never followed up. But recently I had a reason to check, and it confirmed it. The twist hit harder than anything else. Tyler wasn't his. And that meant he wasn't really my stepson either. Everything I'd been holding back, all the guilt, the hesitation, the confusion, it all cracked in that one moment. Tyler turned to me, eyes wide, searching mine. Is that true? He asked, voice shaking. I swallowed hard, nodding slowly. I didn't know for sure, until now. It felt like the floor had fallen out from under us. But at the same time, something inside me released. The tension that had been gripping us for days loosened, not completely, but enough to let air in. My ex stood. I just thought you deserved the truth. I'll leave you both to figure the rest out. And then, just like that, he walked out into the rain again. Tyler and I sat there, completely silent. The rules we thought existed suddenly didn't. And that changed everything. What do you think happens now? Do they finally say what they've been holding in? Or is this the beginning of something even more complicated? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Because the truth just rewrote the entire story. Tyler and I sat in silence for what felt like forever. The sound of the rain softened outside, but inside the room, everything had changed. The weight we'd both been carrying, guilt, confusion, hesitation, suddenly didn't feel the same. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just the boy who had come into my life through someone else, but a man who had stayed, grown, and become part of my world in ways no one else ever had. I don't even know what to say, he finally whispered. I nodded. Me neither. But maybe now we can stop being afraid of what's already here. He reached out and took my hand, not in a rushed or uncertain way, but gently, like he'd been waiting for the right moment. We didn't need to explain everything in that moment. There was time. And now there was honesty. We talked for hours that night, about what we both felt, about the past, and what the future might look like. There were no perfect answers, but there was something better, understanding. Over the next few weeks, things slowly found balance. The house didn't feel heavy anymore. Tyler started smiling again, laughing more. I stopped questioning every little moment. The awkwardness faded, replaced by something calmer, stronger. We had redefined what we were to each other, not based on old labels, but on something real we had built together. Sometimes life throws you into situations you never expected, ones that force you to face what you've been ignoring. And sometimes, the truth can be the thing that finally sets everything right. If you were in their place, what would you have done? Let us know in the comments. Would you want a sequel to see what happens next in their journey?